Welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us here. I'm Nancy Belke with iTech, and we are an Acumatica VAR based out of Ocoee, Florida. And I have the privilege of being on the call with Troy and Vlad from ConverSight. Our goal of this is, as you can see, the quick start for AI and for Acumatica, and using ConverSites technology, and we're going to go through and we're going to do a quick little introduction, and then we're going to turn around and we're going to show you the product. So we want to make sure we get through this as quickly as we possibly can, so that you guys actually can see what ConverSight can do, because it'll knock your socks off. Truly is the cat's pajamas. So with this webinar, and thank you for attending, iTech has provided you with a free lunch. It does expire in an hour, so don't do a Nancy and scan the QR code and go, oh, maybe I'll order dinner. Go ahead and order lunch right now, and we got you. We got you back. If you have any problems whatsoever on the QR code and it's not loading, we have a couple people in the background that are watching the polling questions and the survey questions in the comments. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Stick your email in there, and Flo from my team will help you with that QR code. We are going to be recording the actual webinar, so this is a recorded session. After it's done, we will go ahead and distribute it out to anybody that was maybe not able to join for the entire thing, or just make it available for you guys to review if you have any further questions. This is going to be as interactive as we possibly can. Please feel free to use the comment section to answer any questions or ask any questions that you may have that we're not covering. If in fact that question can't be answered because we are in such a time constraint, we'll go ahead and follow up with you after it. And if you guys stick around, there's a post go live webinar survey that we're gonna or post live survey that we're gonna push out there and publish, and we'd appreciate it if you filled that out too. With that, I mentioned before, my name's Nancy. I've been in the ERP space for over 25 years. Been with iTech here for a while, and we're really grateful to be partners with ConverSight. So I will hand it over to you, Troy, for your introduction.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Nancy. So Troy Hollings out of Indianapolis, Indiana with ConverSight, and I actually had the great privilege of working with Nancy in a past life and bringing the band back together. So excited, and thanks for everybody jumping on here. I say I'm Robin, he's Batman. Vlad, maybe give a quick intro on your side, and we'll dive into it.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. I gotta say, I feel like a third wheel with you and Nancy here. But yeah, excited to be here. Excited to see everybody on the call. My name is Vlad Becker, based out of Boston, Massachusetts, and I head up our supply chain solutions here at ConverSight. Been with the company for about 3 years. Spent close to 5 years in the ERP space and 10 years in supply chain as a practitioner. So really looking forward to being here and showcasing some of the agentic AI capabilities that we have to offer in the space.
Excellent.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to just hit the wave tops and give a kind of an overview of what ConverSight is, and then we'll, like Nancy said, spend most of the time showing you guys the platform. But at the highest level, when you work with ConverSight, you're actually hiring an AI employee. Athena, our AI agent, is inside of the platform, and we'll show you. And what we're really trying to do is use AI to provide you with insights from your data, recommendations, hey, you should do this, you should not do this. And then even, Athena is able to take actions on your behalf. And next slide here. And for the purposes of this conversation, I'd imagine the primary data source that we're going to be talking about is Acumatica, but really this slide is just saying, ConverSight, we're a platform, and attached to the platform we have a data lake, and so we actually have 150 pre-built data models and connectors already. And so sometimes we'll have people who say, hey, I have Acumatica, but I also have Salesforce, or I have HubSpot, and I want to pull in data from Excel or Google Drive. And so all this is really saying is we're going to mostly focus on Acumatica here, but imagine if there's other data sources you'd like to have the capabilities that we're going to show, that is very possible. So if we're at kind of the 10,000 foot view, what is ConverSight? What do we do? And so really, how can you use ConverSight? How can you use Athena? And so first is on-demand reporting. And so, there's that famous Andre Karpathy quote that it's like the hottest new programming language is English. And it's really kind of the same thing here with ConverSight. Really simply by coming in and chatting with Athena in English, you're now able to create any reports, any dashboards you like. The days of what we're really trying to do is, the days of having to write these complicated GIs and having to be, really technical to be able to get dashboards, get reports. Those hopefully are over, and we're gonna show you that those capabilities. That's kind of first bucket. Obviously, though, if there's stuff that you spend a lot of time and you create this report with Athena, you don't want to have to recreate that every time. So you can save those reports and dashboards that you create to storyboards. That's kind of the second pillar. We also have, kind of just to get you started, have some out of the box storyboards as well. But really, we're finding a lot of people are working with Athena really almost as your assistant to create what you need and then saving those in storyboards. And then lastly, third pillar is the demand forecasting. And so, some folks, doesn't apply to some folks. If let's say you're a construction company, which we'll hit on, and maybe you're not doing more that traditional demand forecasting, but we do have a fair portion of our platform that is focused on that supply chain and demand forecasting. And so we've even been able to have Athena kind of help figure out, what AI model should we run your SKUs through? What should you reorder? All of that. So that's kind of the 10,000 foot. Maybe next slide really quick, and we'll just talk a little bit more in depth of like what are the specific areas that we can help people. So, just like when you hire an employee, they could do a lot of different stuff. They could be an accountant, they could be a salesperson, they could work in the warehouse. I mean, our platform broadly applies to a lot of different things, but we've also kind of found a couple specific pains and problems in the market that we have tailored our platform to. And so, that top row is really all around folks that have supply chain needs. So, maybe you're trying to visualize what open POs do we have? You want to be able to say what sales orders do we have incoming? What inventory do we have? Or maybe if we're thinking about the demand planning, what are we expecting coming down the pipe? What do we need to be reordering? And then, the supply planning side is more of using, Athena is really that's gonna give that recommendation to you saying, hey, based on your inventory, based on allocated orders, based on what we have incoming and what we expect demand to be, we recommend you place this purchase order, and then we're actually able to write that back to Acumatica. So that's kind of the first supply chain layer. On that second row, we have kind of a built out section around sales and finance analytics. And so this would be, you really want to hire a sales analyst or a finance analyst to get those reports that you've been struggling to get. And then we are committed to spending at least some time giving the teaser on the construction analytics, because I'd say that is a newer side for us, but fast growing, and we see a lot of kind of a lot of traction on that side. So that's the universe of what we're going to talk through. Maybe we'll hit two more slides, and maybe I'm just going to skip this one if we can go to the next slide. I think the last thing I'll say before I kick it over to Vlad is, in this world of AI, everybody is talking about AI. I even saw GE created this AI fridge now, and it's apparently super smart. And it's like, I don't know if it'll help me not have 5 years past expiration date stuff in my fridge. But, I think we're not trying to just have AI for AI's sake. There has to be a rationale. And so I'll just share one example. It has to be a business ROI. So that first example, one of our customers, we were able to save them $11 million in inventory. Well, how does that happen? Well, it happens because, what are humans really bad at? Well, looking through thousands and thousands of data points and figuring out, what are the patterns, what should we do more of, what should we do less of? But what's AI really good at? That same thing. And so, in that example, just imagine, maybe they have 1,000 SKUs. They're a distributor, we'll just say, and maybe 100 of those SKUs give 50, 60, 70% of their revenue. And so if you're planning that, I mean, you want to make sure you never stock out on those 100 SKUs. But for some of those longer tail SKUs, maybe you don't really get very many orders, or maybe you don't need to keep a bunch of inventory. And so what we're able to do is kind of say, okay, what should you have a lot of? Because we expect using AI that it'll, there'll be a ton of demand. But if you're just using a basic rule of thumb, you probably don't need to keep $50,000 of your, obscure C tier SKU. And so that's how we're able to basically say, okay, you can keep less inventory, but also increase your service levels. One example of using AI in the real world, I'm not going to read those other two, or other three, we'll send out the deck for everybody. But again, as we're going through this, we're really trying to think, what is that business ROI, not just, hey, let me get some cool AI in here like the fridge. I'm sure it's really good, but I would never get one of those.
Troy,
What's some of your thought?
I think that you and Vlad could probably weigh in on this a little bit even more, but the whole transitioning to a new ERP system or taking legacy historical data and analyzing that. One of the things that I think that ConverSight does so well because they leverage that data lake, we don't care where that data is coming from, and if we want, say you bought Acumatica and you're implementing it today, you don't want to bring in all that historic information, but you still want to be able to report on it and be able to actually do data analytics. That's a huge plus to ConverSight because now I don't have to bring in that legacy systems data, all that historic information, maybe potentially bog up my brand new ERP system, but I still get the output from it. And that's where ConverSight really shines too for all of the clients that we have on it.
Yeah, thank you. I think we see that a lot where, maybe you, especially if you're wanting to do like demand forecasting from day one, there might
Mhm.
not be a lot of history in Acumatica, but maybe you have an old ERP with 20 years of data. That would be a great use of, hey, you could pull that into ConverSight. You could also pull Acumatica in. So then, as you get more comfortable and as you start filling Acumatica, you're already set from like a data layer visualization perspective. So yeah, I think that's a great call out. Vlad, I might kick it over to you
Yeah.
to take over, share the demo, and yeah, guys, keep it interactive. Ask questions, interrupt us. Happy to take this anywhere. But yeah, Vlad, I think take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. And Nancy, you brought up a great point, right? Being able to tie data across different platforms, across, your old ERP, your new ERP, and being able to stand up that data environment for easier decisions and more so using that agentic AI to bring forward decisions in a more automated way, right? And what we're seeing here on our Conversite screen is just how we do that, right? We call this our insights page. And this is the page that users will see, first thing when they log into ConverSight, and this is really bringing forward all of that um, detail that is coming in from those different data sources. So anytime a data refresh happens, the system is scouring thousands, millions of data points and extracting any sort of exceptions, any sort of trends that are really outside the norm. And bring that forward to the user in a more automated way, right? So instead of having to rely on, just like Troy said, outdated practices and being able to pull data down, run it through Excel, analyze it yourself, you're really hiring a full-time employee with Athena that's going to bring that information forward, right? So things around, hey, what's going on with my revenue? What are my margin trends? Who's driving that, right? So here we can see some stories around what's really impacting our business, right? We have certain customers that are driving the highest change in revenue. We are able to see how that breaks down across different margin components. And really, this is persona driven. So depending on the user that's within the platform, whether they're a warehouse operator or a buyer, these insights are going to be tailored to them, right? So it's going to really focus on what they care most about and bring that information forward to them so they can really start helping them prioritize their day. It's really truly like having an assistant when you first log into ConverSight.
I just love that it kind of tells a story. Instead of just all these reports that are out there, you're actually telling us what we're looking at and giving us the definition. This is why we're doing this, and this is why you're seeing this. Um, it's a lot easier than, going to actually just see the graph and then not know what the back end information is behind it. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's spot on, right? You know with AI these days, right? This new generation of AI, we're really expecting AI to tell us what's the root cause of what I'm seeing, right? The why behind it, and this is really where these insights can shine. Now, you might have noticed as I'm looking on this page, we have a cute little widget here on the bottom right, right? And this is our agentic AI Athena, right? So what Athena does is exactly what Troy mentioned. She's able to take all that information, scour it for us, and create really vibrant visuals and reports by us just asking questions around that data, right? So perhaps on the insights page, we saw, a specific customer was driving most of our revenue change month over month, right? Maybe I'm curious about the rest of the customers that are driving that revenue increase, right? So I can come in and start asking a question around, hey, what customers are contributing the most revenue and what are they buying? Right? So in the past, we've had to rely on, IT teams and report builders and, you know, bogging them down or waiting a long time for these responses from those teams. And at that point, data becomes outdated, right? Our questions might be answered or, we might have moved on, right? So being able to, have a thought, right? And I need to solve this problem I'm having, or, I'm curious about what's happening in this part of my business and just simply come in and use this agentic AI to get that information on the fly within seconds, right, is really a game changer. So, you know, Troy showed that slide saying, teams are seeing 60% efficiency gains using ConverSight. Well, that's now an outdated metric too, right? The speed in which this agentic AI is able to actually generate these types of reports, um, and what would used to take us, 24 hours, 48 hours happens in under 5 seconds, right? And that's really the power of ConverSight is being able to provide that visibility across these different business areas efficiently to really help us be quicker and more proactive in how we're driving revenue and increasing and decreasing costs.
And one thing maybe I'll just jump in and just point out too is if you look at Vlad's prompt, that's a pretty complete thought. What customers are contributing the most revenue and what are they buying? It's not like back in the day, I mean, even like 2 years ago, going onto Google and typing in revenue and then having to, hunt and peck. This is really Athena's reasoning and understanding. So you don't have to worry too much about like how exactly should I structure this. Athena will understand what you're trying to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's also contextual, right? You can continue having the conversation with her, right? This is a pretty straightforward query, right? But maybe I want to do some comparative analysis. How does this compare month over month? So I can ask her, show me this information by month for the last 6 months, right? And now she's going to add in those time periods for us. So now we're able to see how are customers trending across what they're buying period over period. Are we seeing certain customers that are having downtrends in certain product areas? And do we need to allocate more resources to them? Do we potentially need to have our sales reps reach out to these folks and see, can we drive more revenue with them through just 10 seconds of actually querying up the data? Whereas, again, in the past, it used to take days, weeks for us to be able to extract this kind of information and really start analyzing it.
That's awesome. And that was so wicked fast. That's great.
Yeah. And really, this applies across all your different data points, right? So when we talk about all the different areas that Conversational Agentic AI plays into, it's across supply chain, right? So giving us supply chain visibility into our inventory positions, giving us visibility into our sales orders and outbound operations. What's causing our backlog in our business? All the way to really using that AI to understand what is my business trending towards, right? And that's where we're seeing a lot of our customers find a lot of benefit from our demand forecasting, supply planning, and overall inventory optimization workflows. So when ConverSight generates demand forecasts, right, we're looking at years of historical data. We're extracting any sort of seasonality trends. We're doing an analysis on any sort of outlier orders, right, to help us smooth out the curve of that forecast. And the AI agent is actually scouring through each item's data points and figuring out what is the best model that's going to be applicable to this product. And as we're doing that, right, we're also generating those AI narratives to really paint the picture in again, a natural language format. The goal here is make sure folks are looking at this information and extracting information from these analytics in a much more efficient way, right? We don't have to necessarily go through and look through this report. It's available to us, and we've made sure that the information is not black box, but can the AI extract where sales are potentially stagnant, what products are really driving the business, and where we need to tweak our forecast? Now, how do we actually start really interacting with that forecast, right? And that's where our demand planning applications come into play, right? So when we're looking at a specific forecast, we might come in and start looking at across our different items, what is the model that's being applied, right? So I mentioned we're using a variety of different AI and machine learning algorithms to really start looking at what potential forecast is going to work best for a certain item, right? And the system actually scours all of that historical data that I mentioned and looks at what forecast is going to yield the highest accuracy rate, right? So we're not really counting on our teams using moving averages or linear regression models anymore. It's really being automated for us by the AI. And we're really starting to determine, right, how do we get accuracy rates 85% and higher that, of course, then will yield increase service levels, reduce stockouts, and of course, limiting potential overstock and the costly um, uh, impacts of that to our bottom line. Now, from there, right, we're able to actually come in and we also have, of course, in our business, tribal knowledge about what's happening. We know, certain promotions coming up. We know uh, if there are certain customers that are potentially looking at, new product categories within your business, right? So we do give the ability to come in and actually start adjusting these forecasts and looking at what has the AI suggested? What do I want to actually update within these items, within these periods? And what do I reasonably think our volumes can be? And this is where we can start bringing in other teams like sales teams and marketing teams to really start generating a forecast consensus. And the baseline of all of that is the AI and the algorithms that are being that are doing all the heavy lifting for us, right? We're not counting on Excel spreadsheets or outdated BI tools to be reactive, but instead we're being proactive in terms of what we're actually seeing from a volume standpoint go forward in our business.
Vlad, at the top of your screen there, I see an export and import, and that would be great for anything sitting outside. But right now, we're connected to the back end of Acumatica through API because
Yeah,
we don't actually have to export out of Acumatica and ingest into ConverSight. It's actually pulling that over, right? Automatically.
absolutely. That's all being automated. So on a daily basis, all that new information is coming in, and the system is running all that new information through our platform. Now, of course, we do give the ability to, extract the data. We never want to kind of gatekeep that data that's being presented, right? So you do have the ability to extract information. If you have your own forecast that you want to import, we certainly give you that ability as well, right?
That's great.
Yeah. Now, what do we do with this information, right? We have this AI generated forecast for us. We're, seeing our accuracy increase on an item by item level. But how do we actually take action on that, right? Well, that's where we also have our supply planning application that takes a look at all of those different trends that we've analyzed. It brings in inventory detail. It brings in inbound or in transit product, right? Items that we haven't even yet that haven't yet even been shipped by our suppliers. And also looking at any sort of outbound orders. What's happening across my entire supply chain, right? So from there, we're able to generate a supply forecast. And by taking that supply forecast, merging it with our demand forecast, the system is now bringing forward what are potential items that are really, at a critical stage in our supply chain, and where do we need to actually allocate dollars and buy more product, right? So in the past, right, I used to be a buyer and you'd look through dozens of different ERP screens. You do analysis on in your Excel. You have probably 8 different worksheets, looking at lead times, looking at, supplier costs and a variety of different data points. And, by the time, by Thursday, you're finally ready to start making decisions on what to buy, right? The
I think
pro-
you're speaking the language of love for most of the people on
yeah,
the
yeah.
call.
And
So, yeah.
we all felt it, right? And
Yeah.
this is really where the system is shining, right? It's actually telling you what do you do next across your different products, right? We're seeing, certain items are lacking demand. We're seeing other items that are really in a critical stockout position, right? Based on current demand trends, we are going to be stocked out and lose out on sales opportunities, right? So the system is actually telling you what to do and what to buy and when to buy it. Now, there's a variety of other inputs in this process, right? Such as lead time metrics, on time and in full metrics. And again, those are being tracked dynamically by the Agentic AI. We're looking at what's happened of late within this supplier, in terms of, when did you actually place that purchase order? When did you receive those units? And has that deviated from the norm, right? And perhaps the supplier has seen we've had 4 week lead times with them, but over the past couple of months, it's been closer to 6. The system's going to pick up on those trends and recommend that we buy this product sooner in order to ensure just-in-time delivery. Now we don't stop there, right? We realize that, once we select the different items we want to purchase, we don't want to then take that information and go and, create a PO in Acumatica or, our procurement software. We actually allow you to come in, select all the different items that you buy, and create those purchase orders right back into Acumatica, right? So we're not only automating the decision layer, but also the manual effort necessary to write these POs. Um, taking all the information that we've consolidated and actually generating those POs for you that then go through your typical approval process within Acumatica. So again, saving those buyers time, not only deciding what to buy, when to buy it, but actually writing those POs as well, which, trust me, takes much longer than you think.
It
Um,
does. It does. That's just an extra step that all the directors of procurement on this call today have to do and have to take after they've done all this data analytics outside of Acumatica and now have to go back in there and log in and actually do it. So this is really helpful.
yeah. And like we said at the beginning, if you have any questions, please jump in with any sort of questions you have in the Q&A. We'll also have some time at the end. But before I move on, right, I wanted to also touch on the construction module that Troy mentioned, right? Um, we've over the past several months have worked with Nancy and other partners in the space around what construction companies really care about. We've heard from our customers in the space what they really need to see out of an AI tool like this, and we've developed a module for project management and construction analytics. And within this module, we're really breaking down the information across 3 different areas, right? We have our executive summaries and C-suite analytics, really helping those executives really start understanding what's happening within our portfolio, what's the health of our portfolio, and we're really able to start again developing that story around the overall health not just of a singular project, but projects across different segments, across different customers, regions, and of course, portfolios that we have broken out here. Now, besides, seeing that C-suite executive and analytics around the overall portfolio health, we're also able to go in and actually dive into individual projects and see, right, what's the spend looking like? How's the spend actually trending towards? Are we potentially planning to overspend on this project, and how do we mitigate that, right? Able to see how our project's tracking from a timeline perspective. Are we potentially seeing that these projects are going to go over our estimated times, and what's going to be the resource impact on that? Are we going to see, increasing costs with those bloating timelines? All the way down to being able to start analyzing what are the different change orders that are driving my margins, right? In this industry where margins are so tight, being able to really break out and see all the different change orders that are increasing my margins, that are potentially driving revenue for my business, and how does that break down across those change orders? What type of change orders are really driving this across my portfolio? And where I potentially need eyes to help facilitate um, um, these projects through these ever evolving circumstances and additional scope and requests from our customers.
I love the AI narrative too on all these screens because it's not just that you're looking at the actual data and you can drill and you can look and you can dig, but Athena is actually giving you kind of like, you don't know what you don't know. Let me help you to understand this better, and kind of gives you that narrative right on the side and goes, you don't you don't have to know everything. Athena's going to kind of predict for you and say, maybe you want to dig into this a little bit more, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's how do we bring the most relevant information front and center immediately, but then of course, give the users the ability to drill in and actually um, um, make their own assumptions, make their own insights as well off of that starting point that full-time employee Athena has brought you to, right? So it's really about saving our employees time, keeping them efficient in their day-to-day with this full-time employee, and also really telling them what decisions need to be made and in which areas to help drive revenue, reduce costs, and of course, increase cash flow for our organization.
To say that you guys just started this new vertical industry, and so you're just kind of getting started. It's extremely impressive with what you've done with, just the short time. And I think it really proves that you're just getting started. Like this is the start, and we can go hog wild and crazy in this industry with ConverSight. So very impressive.
Yeah, appreciate that, Nancy. So I know we have about 10 minutes left here. Want to kick it back over to Troy, see if there's any questions and talk about some next steps with the team.
Yeah, thanks, Vlad. I think yeah, let's see if there's any questions coming in. Um, I think one thing that I just would love to hear you talk about, because I know we tried to fit a lot into this, is like I feel like what we shared from a supply chain perspective, I'd say probably lands in the manufacturing, distribution, retail space. I don't know if you wanted to comment on like some trends you're seeing across those industries, from a supply chain demand forecasting perspective. I don't know if also you wanted to, you don't have to, but share any of those specific screens on the demo. I know we tried to hit the wave tops here, but it looks like we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Really, across the industry, right? We're seeing a lot of trends and feedback from our customers around increasing supplier lead times, right? The current state of the world. It's tough to get product in an expedited fashion, right? So there's a variety of additional views that the AI really generates for us around supplier scorecarding and being able to start evaluating, okay, maybe I'm seeing issues with this supplier across my different products, but are there other suppliers that can deliver the same product in a more cost-efficient way, in a more um, um, favorable fashion for my organization, right? With higher on-time rates, more accurate quality of the material, and really being able to start um, um, being strategic in terms of the suppliers that we're working with, right? We no longer have to be pigeonholed to our top supplier, but we have the analytics at our fingertips and the AI telling us, right, what are the different suppliers that are going to be more cost effective for us. And that really works across areas, right? So we're not just talking about distribution, but we're also talking about raw components and materials. And as we're talking about production planning, really being able to start having the system determine for us what are the potential raw materials that are going to be halting our production lines, right? And identifying what are those critical shortages that are potentially going to stop entire assembly lines, right? And determining how are we going to potentially mitigate that through those supplier scorecards, and finding alternative paths to continue operations moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just one thing maybe to comment on that is, obviously Vlad is clicking through these specific storyboards, but those could have been created and you could have, these types of analytics. You could just come and ask Athena, hey, what products are going to be short this month based on projections, that type of thing. But we just find that if there's something you want to look at on a repeated basis, it probably makes sense to have it in a kind of a standing storyboard format.
You
Yeah, go
bring
ahead,
up a
Nancy.
really good point, Troy. And especially when we started working on this construction project a while back here, and you guys showed me so many people that are coming from that industry vertical are running in legacy systems. It's taking them weeks and weeks and weeks to put out a WIP report. Well, that 2 week WIP report is now it's out of date. It's not accurate key performance indicators of how my project's actually doing. Acumatica changed all that. We've got an active WIP report that's up to date and great. But what you guys have done from that is take it and put the analytics behind it. So now I might see that my low performing projects out there are out there, but why are they not performing well? Do I have a new crew? Did my was my estimator having a bad day? Was it the same person that a brand new project manager that doesn't that maybe needs a little bit more training and a little bit more hand holding? Athena gives and allows us and to do that deeper dive and that analytics piece that we just don't have the capabilities to do inside of Acumatica right now.
Yeah, and I think Vlad, the interesting thing that Vlad's showing right there is again, throughout all of this, Athena's kind of coming alongside and saying, "Hey, here's the data, but also what do you do about it?" I mean, I remember college accounting, you'd look at a profit and loss, and at least back in the day for me, it's like, I have no idea what this is saying. Here, at least you get get a primer and say, okay, well, this is saying profitability continues to go up. There's some net income stability, and that principle just applies kind of broadly through all the things that you theoretically be touching.
Yeah, I remember my first job coming out of college. I would have to summarize these financial reports for our executive team every Monday, right? That would take me an
You're like
entire
the
day to
world's
do that,
worst
right?
Athena.
So if I had Athena's AI capabilities, I mean, it'd be done within minutes, right? So
Yeah.
And then you'd keep it to a secret and they'd be
yes,
like, oh, Vlad's the
yes.
best. We're never getting rid of Vlad.
Exactly.
It,
Maybe one more just kind of question slash comment. So, um, any comments flat around like implementation? Like how does this work? So, we saw a lot of different things. We saw different use cases. There's obviously the platform. Like, I don't know if you could just talk in general about how we think about implementation, how that works, and then maybe we'll close this out and we can pull the slides back up.
Yeah, so we've worked with thousands of customers at this point, and working with those customers, we've had a lot of lessons learned, and figured out ways to really provide the biggest time to value that we possibly can, right? And we do that through these templatized solutions that I've been showing, right? So everything from sales and finance analytics to supply chain visibility through to demand planning and supply planning, construction analytics. Um, all that's been templatized, right? So we're actually able to get you up and running on ConverSight with your data within weeks. Now, of course, there's going to be iterations um, um, to those storyboards, to those reports, to that data based on the nuances within your business. But that's where we're having a conversation with you, learning about you as a customer, learning about your unique workflows, and tweaking what we've templatized to fit your business needs. So all in all, we're really able to deliver a full module and the AI capabilities around that module, and you know have the AI tell us what needs to be done next, right around 3 to 4 months. Of course, depending on the use case and the complexity of your business.
Got it. Thanks, Vlad. Yeah, so maybe we'll get the slides pulled back up and we can close this out. So again, thank you everybody. Really appreciate the time here. I think first of all, I think if you're sitting there and you're saying, "Hey, this is kind of interesting, but I'm not sure I have this unique specific situation," like we'd be happy to just have a conversation. That's how most of our projects start. We just, hey, let's just see if we can be helpful. So I think very happy to do that. As all good webinars, we obviously have to have an offer, and so if we're able to get a project done in project completed, kind of signed off on in March, we're actually offering a completely free implementation. So we'd love to chat. Obviously, that's a tight turnaround. So again, really would just love to say hey and have a conversation regardless. But if there's any interest in that specifically, that QR code will go straight to book a meeting. And then just in general, I think we'd really love just feedback and thoughts broadly. We tried to span all of what we do in 45 minutes, which is somewhat challenging. So hoped it made sense and was in different categories, even though, construction company is very different from a distribution company. We tried to hit on those kind of core key themes. So I think with that, maybe Nancy, if you have any final thoughts.
Yeah, we have another survey question. Thank you very much for everybody that attended. And hopefully you've got your lunch and you're having your favorite sandwich meat on a sandwich from somewhere. So thank you for attending. We look forward to doing more of these and just bringing to our client base more options that are out there that you might not know about yet. So if you wouldn't mind just filling out the last survey question, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, and there's that free lunch link again, just in case. And thanks again. Really appreciate the time, everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank
thanks
you.
everybody. Take care.